Okay. Welcome to the first, oh my goodness, first Tuesday of the month for builders in October. Eek. Q4 2025 already here. All right. Well, thank you guys for being on today. The topic for today is how to best utilize the tools and resources strategically that we have for building an organization. And the reason why this topic came up today is because I was talking to someone last night who came to EXP before Rick and I did, and have mentioned one of the programs that we're going to talk about today. And this person has, close to 10,000 agents in their organization, and they'd never heard of this program. And so I'm like, wow, well, if a builder that's actively building doesn't know about some of the programs that we have, it's possible that people that are just getting started or have less mature organizations don't know about the programs either. So thus today's topic came about of what we have, how to most strategically use it, and when to execute on those things. So before we jump in, let me just say this is a conversation, and that at any point in time, if you've got a question, put it in the chat, come off mute, and we'll have a conversation around this today. So before we jump in, is there anything outside of getting really clear on? And I put it in the context of why, what, how, because this is how our brains learn and retain information. When we understand why for something, then the what it is and how to utilize it, the brain processes and stores that information differently than if we talk about what there is that we have and how it works, and then why we would use it at the end. So we're going to start with why at the beginning of each one of these and go through them so that you can really wrap your minds around understanding why this tool and resource is available for use before jumping into the what and the how. Any questions before we get started, or anything anyone would like to add to the agenda for today that you want to make sure that we cover or connect on? No? All right, so let's jump right in. In the context of why, and this is going to be conversational. So the first tool that we have is the model explained. For those of you that haven't seen or been to that website lately, it is completely updated with a new model explained for 2025 that goes into 3 different segments. And actually, I'll share it on my screen before we have a conversation about it. And so for those of you that seen the old ones or the previous versions, there's a couple of things I want to highlight about this one, because a lot of times it's like, well, where's this tool? Where's this resource? Where's the best place to find it? And so I want to bring this to your attention. Okay, so under the why of the model explained, I'm going to have you guys come off mute and just, why do we have this resource?
So we can understand what we're going to make off of agent retention.
Okay. What else?
Probably to sound more intelligent when we try and pitch it ourselves.
Okay.
Exactly. Use him as the expert to explain stuff versus
consistency. It's a proven strategy, proven method that works, and no matter if you send it today, tomorrow, next week, next year, it's going to deliver the same message.
Okay, cool. What else?
I feel is to fully comprehend what is there for us as well, how to take full advantage in order to explain it as well to other people so they can see the same attraction that brought us all here.
Okay. So here's, for those of you that are making notes, I want you to add this to everything that's been shared, because everything that's been shared is correct. And the highest level of why we have this resource is, number 1, thorough due diligence. Number 2, what that supports is speed of building, because you get number 3, which is duplication if you're using the resource. So for you to be able to learn everything that Brent presents in the model explained and then go pitch that to someone or present that to someone, you're taking time out of your day to present when you have a tool that is leveraged that can do that for you. And a lot of times I will talk to agents and they'll be like, yeah, I know about EXP, heard about EXP, familiar with EXP. Oh, tell me what you know, what you understand. And they don't. They know one aspect of it or 2 aspects of it, but it's really clear that they've never seen the full picture. And so I know it's easy. There's a saying that the more you know, the slower you go, because the more you'll be inclined to talk. And so the more you learn about EXP and everything we have to offer, it's so easy to just get in conversations and then be doing the presenting ourselves in a one-on-one context. In a one-to-many context, like at a Zoom, or if you're doing a lunch and learned, or, you know, more of an event, to be able to stand up and do that, great, because you're in a one-to-many context. But if you really want to build and build strategically and build with leverage and create duplication and scale, this tool and resource is there to support you in doing that, so that you're not the message, you're just the messenger of where people get the message. And then you're able to have an intelligent conversation with someone on the other side of it, which is, as you're watching it, I want you to pick out 3 things that you want to understand at a deeper level, or that were really interesting to you that like jumped off the screen. And so in that, I mean, if I go back to like Rick's story of coming to EXP, he'd had multiple people talk to him about it, had multiple people talk to him about stock ownership, multiple people talking to him about revenue share. And he just, the pieces never went together until Brent sat down and watched the model explained with him. And so it is, there's this concept of go slow to go fast. And it may feel like it's slow. It's like, oh my gosh, it's 30 minutes. And can't we just summarize it in 5 of, you know, what it is, what we get? But the truth is that for people that are not in our ecosystem, their minds don't understand what it looks like to work within our ecosystem and what's available to them and how that will shift and change as an agent. And that's a process. So you wouldn't go from crawling to sprinting any more so than you would go from like a 5 to 7 minute conversation about EXP and go like, oh yeah, this sounds great, I'm on board. And so this tool, the why behind this tool is leverage, duplication, and due diligence. And there's 3 now parts to it, which I think are fantastic. The step 2 that's there is Russ Lagans, and he has an incredible way of explaining the 4 different stages that an agent goes through in their career, which is a totally different perspective. So depending on who you're talking to, that may be the one that you start with, right? In the context of how you use it. Because he's talking more ideas and concepts and what it looks like at those 4 stages in your career. And then Brent is talking specifically more of, you know, what is EXP? How does it work? Why would you want to be here as an agent? What are the things that are available to you? Step 3 on this resource is the how revenue share works. And I want to highlight that in addition to how revenue share works, if you look at all of these live links that are here, anything that you could possibly ever want or need when in conversation with an agent. Well, what tools and resources am I going to have, you know, for buyers and sellers? Oh, well, it's under step 3, under how revenue share works. And these will take you to live links that are EXP. There you go. There's a seller toolkit with the EXP. So, and at the bottom here is the growth and attraction toolkit, which is all things related to growth and attraction. But one of the things that I really love is the how to start your own calculations, which this is a newer release from the company, which is a revenue share calculator. So I'm going to click on it. Is everybody still seeing my screen? Can you see the calculator? Okay. So there's a couple of things about this calculator that I want to bring to your attention. Number 1, you're going to see 2 different level 1s for agent count. And the reason why is in year 1 and year 2. So when you personally sponsor somebody and they name you as their sponsor, in year 1, if they cap, you can get the entire 50%, which is up to $4,000 for a fully capped agent your first year. And then in year 2, that goes to what it would regularly be, which is the $1,400 per capped agent on your first level. So I don't run this one because I'm always an under promise, over deliver. I don't even want people to see that. And so you can put in average sales price, commissions, number of transactions, and I wouldn't get too much lost in the weeds over here, because if you have, if you're in production and you're capping, you open up all 5 levels anyway. If you're an icon agent, you open up all 7. So that doesn't really much matter to someone looking at that at that point in time. And the bonus, I just leave at 25%. It's the lowest one to manage expectations. Again, under promise, over deliver. That adjustment bonus is levels 1, 2, and 3. And what that adjustment bonus is, for those of you that don't know, is if someone, like, let's say I left EXP, my position still has revenue share coming to it every month. And one of the things that makes our company unique is the revenue share that would come into my position, the company does not keep for itself. It puts in this adjustment bonus pool, which then gets distributed to all the agents in the company. So, so that adjustment bonus is a key thing that, again, is a distinction between us and other cloud-based companies, because the company takes it back in other cloud-based companies. So EXP being, about the agent, for the agent, this is a really important distinction in this piece. And then you can just play with this. I'll have people play with it and go, yeah, just, put the number of agents in there. Go play with the revenue share calculator. Let's talk about, what your goals would be if somebody is interested in building, and that's part of the conversation that's brought them here. Okay, so we are only on the first tool and it's already 9:13. Holy smokes. So I'm going to come up for air. Questions, comments, clarifications on anything that we've covered so far. All right. So the how to use the model explained is, it is a great thing to have someone either you sitting and going through that with them, or making sure that they've gone through that entire thing themselves and are prepared to have a conversation about it before utilizing a third-party validation call. So I
Hey,
am,
Casey.
yeah.
Sorry. You just blew my mind a little bit. So that's something I didn't know about, the adjusted rev share. Every time I see what my rev share is going to be, let's say it's $2,500, I end up getting like $3,000. So is that where that difference is coming from? Or, it always says it's going to be one, but it always ends up being more.
That is where that adjustment is coming from. Yes. And because of RevShare 2.0, every single agent in the company has the first 3 levels open
Beautiful.
without
Okay.
you doing anything. So every agent can be participating in adjustment bonuses.
Interesting. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So that I depending, sometimes people will get on my calendar. So zoomwithcasey.com is how you can get anytime on my calendar, and I will talk to any agents for you anytime. My preferred process, now we're in the how to use the model explained tool, is that they have been through the model explained with you before getting on a call with me, because it is not the best use of my time to explain to them how the model works. The best use of my time is to upgrade and help convert them and move them further down the due diligence process, not to be the tool that's explaining how EXP works. And so from a process standpoint, imagine if you're building an organization and you want to build an organization of hundreds of agents, and that's your goal. Just imagine that is for a second. And these conversations happen in a one-off, and I'm the one talking to them about the model. And then there's multiple calls that happen after that. The amount of time that takes, if that duplicates, so think of everything in the context of duplication. And now you have people that you're doing the same thing with, and instead of using the model explained, you're in one-off conversations, and now your agents are in one-off conversations, and they're coming to calls and they haven't seen the model and they don't understand it. Think about how much slower the growth of your organization is going to be if that duplicates versus, oh yeah, everybody's been through the model explained, they're coming to the call prepared to have a conversation about it, questions about it, and we're moving the ball down the field that much further. And that is the thing that's duplicating in your organization. So when you think about how fast you can grow and build versus how slow it can be and take like years and years, which is not super fun. It's impossible to get momentum unless you're utilizing something that's going to duplicate and scale. So if you utilize that tool in that way, you'll be able to get the duplication, get other people doing the same thing as they want to grow and build. Then yes, absolutely get them on my calendar, get them on Selena's calendar. We're here to help talk to your people and have, nothing attached to it, right? Just to meet the community, meet who you're in business with, get a different perspective and a different experience. And that's what we're here to do. So any questions on the why, what, or how behind the model explained, Brent's, Russ's, and then the rev share calculator? No, I know it's a fire hose. I'm going really fast. Okay. So how many of you have the updated or know where to find the updated, what your $85 a month gets you as an agent of EXP, just by show of hands? Okay, some yes, some no. So what I am going to do is I am going to go and I have it saved as a bookmark at the top of my computer screen so that whenever I'm in a call with someone and they're like, well, what do I get for my $85? Here it is. And so these are live links. And if someone's with EXP, oops, stop sharing. If someone is with EXP, the live links, all of the live links work. If someone's not with EXP, there's some of them that do not work until you're actually an EXP agent. However, there's value in seeing everything, I think, visually for someone to be able to see, oh my goodness, these are all of the things that I get. So 3 different options on the CRM, all of their marketing done for them because Canva's included, Sisu's included. I always highlight from a lead gen perspective that there's these 8 different sources of leads that they can be a part of and get free leads from. And then from a training perspective, all this training is included. You look at other companies that have training, like for those of you that don't know, the Fast Cap program, which is the on average 3.85 contracts at the end of 6 weeks for everybody that's in that program. That program is a version of a program that was created by the same guy, Brian Ellington, when he was the head of education for KW, except for at KW, you pay $900 to get that program. At EXP, it's included in your $85 a month. So the next one, the next Fast Cap program is starting October 29th. And we utilize that as a tool to just be like, hey, if you're an agent that wants to increase your production, do more business, you got to be with EXP to be in the Fast Cap program. Let's get you onboarded and all set up and registered for that so that you can be in the next one. So utilizing the education is a way to leverage creating a sense of urgency for people that really do want to grow and be doing more business. And again, that's all included in the $85. And then of course the tech stack and everything that's there. So I like to be able to just show that to people visually so that they can see it. And then Selena, will you put in the, oh, you already got it in the chat. Cool. Thank you. Of course. And so, yeah, I would save that link, bookmark it to the top of your computer so you have easy access to it when you're talking to people. And if someone doesn't need all that information, don't go through all that information. I'm going to say that again. If someone doesn't need that information, don't go through all that information. But if someone says, well, what is my $85 getting me? I'll just briefly show them that and be like, here's all the things your $85 are getting you, from tech to marketing to leads to training. What would you like to know more about? Versus going through everything that's on that slide, because it may just be enough for most people, particularly if they're high D's or high I's, it's going to be enough to just, oh my gosh, there's so much, that's so much value for $85. Okay, we can move on. Right? For somebody that is more detail oriented, they may want to know more about something there, in which case now they can ask and you can have a directed conversation on what they want to talk about versus just going through the whole thing. I don't recommend ever going through the whole thing in a why, what, how context of how to use that. All right, questions on the what you get for your $85 a month or how to utilize that sheet. So a lot of times, and let me just share this because I'm going to share it with you. Thank you to Selena for getting me set up, because who knew? I'm sure all of you already knew that you can have this little thing called a template on your email. And so, and I'm happy to share this, or we can push it out for those of you that want it. Down here, I go to templates and I have a great meeting you today template that has everything loaded in that I may have spoken with someone about on a call. And then I will just, the blue links are live links, and I will edit that up so it's quick. For those of you that are also wanting to do something that may be more efficient, if you want to use Chat GPT, and you can do this also with your real estate clients, is record the call just on a voice note on your phone load it into ChatGPT and give it the prompts that you want a summary of what the main points were that you talked about and what the next steps are for each of you and a timeline of when those next steps are. And in 60 seconds, you'll have a follow-up email written for you based on your entire conversation to work smarter, both in your sales business and here. I like the template idea, just because, or use a Plod device. Yep, that works as well. Selena's put that in the chat. All right. So of anything that we've talked about so far, what's one thing that you didn't know about that you can see yourself using moving forward, or one thing that you wish you'd known about because it would have made things a lot less frictiony for you?
I'll share. I think the biggest thing is just going through the process, because lately I've been having the one-offs conversations, and that's definitely not sustainable long term in regards to duplication.
I love that. Yeah, and it's easy to kind of get, in the one-offs. I was having a conversation last night with Elizabeth Riley, who is, she was here before all of us, and we're all in her organization, on some level. And, she's coming up on 11 years with EXP. She's going to be icon for the 11th time. And she's got 9,700 agents in her organization. Brent Gove is in her organization, and Jean Frederick is in her organization. And so, we were talking last night. So, we were on the phone for like an hour and a half. She's fantastic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's the most underutilized resource. Like, I haven't been using her or working with her. And she said, where could you use support? And I'm like, well, I'm not in the day-to-day production, and I haven't been. And I understand it and I get it. However, that's not my lane. That's not my conversation. She goes, oh, we have a production call every Friday, and our production calls are amazing. And the agents that are getting on them are doing more and more production, and we have different people on them all the time. And she's like, your entire organization is totally welcome to our production calls. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, and then, they'll meet me on those calls. And then if you want to set up a 3-way call afterwards with prospects that you're personally working with, they'll know who I am. Well, there you have it. Like a system and support and resources and tools. And like, how long have I not been using her? A long time. Like never up until now. So sometimes it's easy to just kind of like go be off on our own, doing our own thing, and forget the value and the leverage of working together in collaboration and larger conversation. What happens when we do that? Okay, so FLQA sponsorship. How many of you have heard of this before? Selena and Lori. All right. So one of the things that Elizabeth and I were talking about is, the longevity of building an organization. And, people come, people go, there's attrition. It's like there's always this, it's just part of the business. It's always going to be that way. It's always been that way. It always will be that way, right? Do we want to minimize it? Yes. And in a perfect world, you're never going to build something that just goes like this. So it's going to be this is life, right? And so the conversation that we were having, it's like, yeah, as you get a larger and larger organization, and at some point, if you want to think about like a long-term exit strategy, there's like getting, having enough. She's like, if I came out of like, as long as we're in production and an icon agent, all 7 levels stay open. As long as you're in production and you cap every year, 5 levels stay open. However, if at some point you ever were doing less production than that, and you have an organization, now we're in a conversation of, okay, well, we need to be at 30 FLQAs to keep that entire 7-level organization open. And so what's the strategy for that? And so as we were talking, this FLQA sponsorship thing came up because she said, so many of the agents that are here in my local market, I have so many agents in my organization, and I don't want to be in competition with them. I'm like, okay. And are you using the FLQA sponsorship program? And she's like, what's that? And so the FLQA sponsorship program is a tool in the toolkit that most people don't know about unless you've found out about it in some random way, or you're somebody that scours online resources, which, let's be honest, most of us are not. And so I'll tell you how we used it. So we have a service called Smart Setters, and that service I pay $1,000 a month for. And we have a specific metric of an agent that we're looking for. And they call into the MLS that we give them locally to set appointments on my calendar to be able to speak to agents. And so this one agent, some of you may have met her. Her name's Ela. She, Selena had the initial call with her. Then she came to our team meeting in person. And when she came to our team meeting, she was like, "Oh my gosh, Tracy." Well, Tracy had come over from Compass, and Tracy and Ela were friends at Compass, right? So now I don't want to be in competition. Tracy's not building at this point at all, but now here's somebody that she has a relationship with. I don't ever want to be in competition with somebody that's in my organization. And at the same time, I'm paying $1,000 a month for a lead service to book appointments on my phone. With an organization where, because I'm not personally in production to get paid on our organization, it's 30 FLQAs. So these are some things to be thinking about when you're looking at a long-term organization build. So this is where the FLQA sponsorship comes into place. And it is that as Ela went through the process, then she's connecting with Tracy now. She's talking with Tracy because they're friends. Tracy's helping to upgrade her in that. And so, of course, we want Tracy to be the sponsor. And so the FLQA sponsorship program is when someone onboards, they can onboard with a sponsor. So Ela onboarded with Tracy as her sponsor. And then there's an addendum contract that gets signed that says the FLQA. So in other words, when she closes a deal and has at least 5,000 in GCI, she'll be a first level qualified active. That first level qualified active counts for me to support me having 30 FLQAs to be able to get paid on the whole organization. So it is an and conversation. So I'm not in competition with anyone in my organization because I can sponsor under them. And if I'd been the lead person that's procuring that relationship and developing that relationship and upgrading that relationship and ultimately come to EXP, and the person in my organization really didn't have a lot to do with it, or maybe was there of like some validation, right? This would be an instance where that program is incredible because it's a win for the agent in my organization, and it's a win for me. So this happened now in a second scenario, this FLQA sponsorship. There was another person, a gentleman who has a full-time job, and he's getting into real estate. And so as he's going through the process, he's like, well, who's going to be there to help me, teach me how to sell real estate? And so it's like, well, you're going to have a mentor for your first 3 transactions. And then after that, here's all the resources from our community that you'll be able to plug into to support you, in addition to taking fast cap and getting plugged in on that level. He's like, yeah, but who's going to be my person? Like, who's going to be the person if I'm in a transaction? I'm like, okay, well, we have, entire broker team. You can reach out to broker support directly. He's like, yeah, but outside of the broker, who's a person that I can have a relationship with, that I can call? So this is where the FLQA sponsorship came into place again. So I picked up the phone, called Tracy, and was like, hey, Tracy, there's a new agent, and he is open to coming to EXP, would like to come to EXP, but he wants a person that's going to be there for him, for contract support or anything that might come up on the production side on an ongoing basis. I'm not the person to do that because that's not the lane that I'm in every day. I'm in the building lane, the business to business lane. And so they had lunch. She's like, well, let me see if I like him and if he's somebody I'd be willing to work with. So they had lunch, and he wanted to meet her and see if he liked her. They had lunch, got together, and yes, they did. So that connection was made. So now Tracy has a second person that just got sponsored to her that she didn't sponsor. That's as a result of our Smart Setter lead program that I purchase and am, recruiting off of each month. She has a second agent, and I will get the FLQA when the production happens. Win-win. Win for her, win for the agent, win for me. So any questions about the FLQA sponsorship program? Selena put the form in there, and it needs to be at the time of onboarding. All that conversation needs to happen, and that paperwork needs to be submitted, and then corporate will generate something on their end. But any questions, thoughts, comments about that? There's one instance where it does not work, and I'll tell you what that is in a minute.
So just to make sure I understand, let's say the first example, you get the FLQA, but you won't participate in the rev share.
No,
Tracy,
I still get the rev share.
you still get the rev share.
Yep. It's just coming off level 2.
Okay. Okay. And that's a better play than co-sponsoring.
You cannot co-sponsor in your own organization.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
So co-sponsoring, and we'll get into that, and this is the time where it does not work. So co-sponsoring is a tool that is for somebody completely outside of your organization. So that it means when you look in your genealogy, you would not see them anywhere on a report. They're not connected financially in any way in your organization, and that is where the co-sponsorship conversation could happen. So if the agent is being co-sponsored, you cannot do the FLQA program. It has to be co-sponsorship or the FLQA sponsorship. So if there was in that instance, and it would totally change the dynamics and parameters. It's a different tool and you would use it for a different reason. So yes, inside your organization, you always use the FLQA sponsorship.
So real quick, Casey, you know Melina from the Real Estate Investment Club?
Yeah.
So all of the agents that come from the club, I put under her, but she's under me. So everyone goes under my second position. It more than likely now makes sense for me to be their FLQA, put them under Melina, the sponsor, and I would still participate in rev share. She participates in the rev share under her first tier, right?
Correct. And are you in production?
I am.
And are
I
you,
cap. Yeah.
you cap and do you icon?
I'm close to being an icon this year.
Okay. So in that instance, yeah, I would start to take the FLQAs. If
Okay.
you're sponsoring them and you're sponsoring them under her, absolutely do that.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
There's no downside to doing that at all. Financially for anyone or for the agent from the level of support that they'll get, like it is, I would absolutely do that in every instance.
Perfect. Thank you, Casey.
Yeah. So here's the thing, it's like, once you know the game, you can develop your strategy, right? If you go, like if we were to go play football right now and nobody knows the game or the rules of the game, it's impossible to develop a strategy of how we're going to play the game and how we're going to win the game, right? So it's the same thing when it comes to building an organization. Like it's not just a matter of bringing people to EXP. There's a strategy involved with it, and a strategy that when executed intentionally, everybody can win at a really high level, right? So that leads us into co-sponsorship, unless there's any other questions or comments. And my tune has changed around co-sponsorship a little bit, so. Okay, so co-sponsorship is when so here's the instances it would be used where someone does not want to have to choose between two. So it's to reduce friction. Someone doesn't want to have to, like, I'm best friends with Jessica and Christian. I've been friends with since childhood. Like, I am not going to come to EXP with one of them and have the other one mad at me for the rest of my life. So this is an instance where co-sponsorship would come into play because you can both, Jessica and Christian, one could be a sponsor, the other can be a co-sponsor, right? The main difference is the sponsor, anything that gets built, that revenue share will flow up through the sponsor's organization. Any organization that gets built will not flow up through the co-sponsor's organization. So that's something very distinctive. So if you're a co-sponsor, so let's say I name Jessica as my sponsor. I'm coming to EXP and Christian is going to be the co-sponsor. So what would happen is, because Jessica and Christian are in two totally different organizations, Jessica would sponsor Christian even though he's already at the company. That just puts him in the place to be able to then sponsor me. Right? So I would be on Christian's level 1 because he's the co-sponsor, and I would be on Jessica's level 2 because she's the sponsor. So if I go build an organization of 100 agents, the revenue share is not going to go to Christian's upline because he's the co-sponsor. The revenue share from that organization will go to Jessica's upline because she's the sponsor. Okay. So here is so to reduce friction, I don't have to choose between two people. That's one instance. And then the other instance is I need a physical office to go into. I need people. I need to see people. Like I need boots on the ground. Well, you're in Texas. I'm in California. Okay. Who do I know in Texas? I don't have anybody where you're at in Texas, but who do I know that's in EXP that has someone there? Not in my organization. I can go find an agent there, boots on the ground, co-sponsor so that my prospect that lives in Texas has boots on the ground support. I'm the sponsor. That person's the co-sponsor, helping them locally in the market. Important thing is the co-sponsor has to be named within 5 days of somebody onboarding or it goes away. So Selena's put the form in there to do that. Let me give you another example of how this came up, and it could have been really awkward, but it's also very healthy now for the organization. In March, we were in Cabo, and the they do the annual Council-Geha award recipient. And so I spoke for 90 seconds on stage. There was a prospect that was at that event that had not been brought to the event by me, that I did not know, that I had not met before. And for whatever, this person liked me. So they show up on my calendar a couple of weeks after Cabo, and it's, what would be an icon agent, top producing agent on my calendar that's like, I saw you. I heard great things about you. I was in Cabo. Someone else paid for her ticket to go. Someone else paid for her room to go. Someone else paid for her flight to go. And she's like, I want to build an organization and I'm, want to explore a conversation around working with you. Awkward. No, right? That's not happening. So what I did is I answered all her questions to get her clear on the value of EXP. And then I went to the Empire Builders site and showed her all the tools and resources and said, these are yours. I will help you any way I can, but I'm not, and I'll leave it with you, right? So this is in March, and then co-sponsorship comes out in May. Nothing happens. I never followed up with her. There's nothing to follow up with. She can plug into anything she wants of ours, and I'll help. I'm not going to go in competition with somebody in our company. I know different people have different thoughts on that, but that's my thought on that. And so a couple of weeks ago, I get a call from this person, and she says, I'm ready to come to EXP, and I want to talk about co-sponsorship. Explain to me what it is. So in this instance, the person that had been talking to her literally for a couple of years, and me, and her, team, her support, and Selena, like we're all in one communication. And she onboarded a week ago, and we worked together and we got on a call together to strategize. And it's like, okay, well, where am I going to be help support growth and resources to do that? Where's the other person going to be? And so between the two of us, this agent has been like so thoroughly supported, from going and renting office space to having a boots on the ground, crew to be able to do an announcement video, to she's got her first agent that she's personally recruited now because we worked with her on the 48-hour strategy of those conversations 48 hours before you move your license when no one knows you're coming, those courtesy calls, which she picked up the phone and did. So she came over 1 week. She had her first agent come over with her the second week. They're both coming to Miami. And we're working together cohesively through the co-sponsorship program, because that person that had been working with her or on her for a couple of years is in her local market. I'm 4 hours away. But this is how we're working together. So it is, it's been an incredible experience. And when you start to think about how you can grow and build, I was at the Arizona top 250 for individual agents, teams, and then organizations, builders. And Kurt Shewell comes up to me and he's like, I would love to work together with you. Let's co-sponsor. I'm like, okay, well, he's in Michigan. I'm in California. I don't know anybody in Michigan that's an agent other than the agents that we have there. And I'm like, how do you see that looking? And he's like, I just have my local market all the time. You fly in, like, let's do events together. And people that resonate and connect with you and move because of that, we'll do like we'll work out something and we'll co-sponsor together. We'll grow and build. I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. Right? To be able to live in my skills and my gifts of what I love doing, to help him get his people over the line and then bring another layer of value to them and us be able to work together. So there is, when you think about like how and grow, one of the things from that mastermind that stood out to me was like getting really clear on what are your God-given gifts and talents, the ones that you've developed over the course of your life, the things that you love doing, the things that light you up, and then just go do more of those. Like, how do you do more of those and do that in the context of building and growing, right? So, so in that, this co-sponsorship tool can be like fantastic for that. Any questions, clarifications, anything anyone wants to share in that space? No? All right, so we're gonna move on to LOI. Why would somebody use a letter of intent? And well, let's just start off there. So if you're working with an agent and they're not ready to come to EXP, why would they sign a letter of intent?
They have transactions closing. They have a big team and they want to get the team over. They have other people coming that want to join, but they can't come yet. So those people can join. It basically just holds their spot at the company.
Yes. And so once someone's on an LOI, so often, so in the context of why, when you're in the building phase, people are like, it's not the right time, it's not the right time, it's not the right time. I need some time, right? And then they're hanging out there and they haven't taken a next step that's actually moved them forward in any way, shape, or form. And so an LOI doesn't commit them to having to be at the company. It is a forward step energetically that creates that space where, yes, if they have agents, they can have agents that start coming to the company and name them as their sponsor without them physically being here until they onboard. And the ability to have transactions close out before they come over, right? So a lot of times you'll see this used with small independent brokerages where the broker is going to be the last one to come over because the transaction's closing out, but the agents that are within that brokerage come over first. So the broker owner will be on an LOI so that the entire organization, his or her organization, can transition over before the broker does as the last person and have that organization intact. There is, one thing with that, and the revenue share is not retroactive on an LOI. So that's an important thing to know because sometimes people will get in a space of, well, I want to extend it. Can I extend it for another 30 days? And yeah, there's extensions. It's designed to be used for 90 days or less. And have we seen them extend it? Yes, seen them extend it. However, if they have an organization that's over and then they come over and they're like, what if those agents have capped, and in particularly in a mega team structure where they're maybe only on a $4,000 cap because they're on a mega team and now those agents are closing transactions and the broker owner comes over and they're like, they come over, 120 days later after their agents have all come over and their agents have capped out because the cap's so low. There's no retroactive revenue share going to the broker owner. So it's important to be able to manage expectations and know, like, okay, if I'm going to use this tool, let me use it strategically, but then also not. What happens if the agents come over, but the team leader ends up not coming over? That position goes away and everything rolls up to whoever that other sponsor would have been. Good question. Okay, any other strategy on why would you use an LOI or the what and the hows behind it before we move on? Nope. Okay, cap deferment. For those of you that don't have large organizations or haven't worked in this space before, capping is where you're on an 80-20 to 16,000 with the XP and then you cap, you get 100% of your commission after that. There's a lot of companies that don't have caps, so this isn't a conversation there. But for companies that do have caps, where an agent is already capped, they may say, I'm capped. So now if I come to EXP, I'm going to have to, go pay my, cap all over and give money to the company. So there is something called a cap deferment where an agent that wants to come to EXP and does not want to be on the 80-20 split to 16,000 can get that cap deferred to the amount of time it would have been deferred to where they're coming from, provided all that documentation is provided. That needs to happen at time of onboarding. What can you see would be some of the benefits and drawbacks of using a cap deferment?
We did that with Rob and I, and it was obviously great for us, but the cap or the rev share for you guys was deferred. had to wait until we started capping at EXP.
Yeah, so benefit to the agent, right, that has a deferred cap. For the sponsor, yeah, they're not going to get rev share because there's nothing going into EXP. For the agent that comes over, what could be a drawback of being on a cap deferment?
You can't icon. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, so because you're not paying in on a split, that means that you forfeit your ability to icon. Because in order to icon, you have to cap and then do an additional 20 sides or a total of 500,000 in GCI. So for somebody that is wanting, and so these are strategy conversations that are important to have with agents up front. It's like, yes, we can defer your cap, but how much business are you doing? How much business are you planning on doing? You know, is being an icon agent something that's going to be important to you? And if so, you're pushing that out a year by being on a cap deferment, or do you want to just come over as an agent on the 80-20 split, get that cap, handled, get capped, and then off to the races so you can start qualifying for your icon award. So in every instance, and this is the thing about tools, there's a context of when and strategically why you would use a tool, and there's always going to be a benefit, and there's sometimes going to be a drawback, right? So the agent, first and foremost, like on a cap deferment, it doesn't matter that the sponsor is not going to get rev share because they'll get rev share the next year. It's more important that that agent's there and flourishing, right? So it may look like a drawback. It could be if somebody's looking at that from that perspective. However, for the agent that's coming over, we always want the agent that's coming over to be the focus. So whenever you're thinking about how you're going to use any of these tools, if you always do the right thing by the agent that's coming into the organization and what's going to be the long-term benefit to them, not just short-term, and they know that and are able to make decisions based on that, and we educate them in that way, yes, all of these tools are great, and can be used in different ways and sometimes not used. Right. And so it's about having those conversations so that people know and have the option. Right. Celine and I were talking yesterday, the FLQA sponsorship one by way of example. Somebody not in our organization sponsored EXP and then got a request for an FLQA sponsorship form so that the FLQA would go to someone that they didn't know, hadn't met, never had heard of, still to date hasn't. And so that ended up being a really negative experience for the agent that's at EXP that was being asked to sign the FLQA sponsorship form because it didn't happen at time of onboarding. They were attempting to do it retroactively for somebody that wasn't even in the picture and hadn't been in the picture and bringing them over, right? So now you've got a tool, which is a great tool, but depending on how it's used, not in the best interest of always thinking about what's going to be in the best interest of the newest person coming into the organization, their short term, not just short term, but long term, right? And so the tools are great. However, a tool misused is a tool misused. And so it's important to know and understand and then be, strategic around that. Okay. Any other questions on cap deferment before we move to the last one, which is a cultural center? No? I feel like I've been a talking head today. However, it's kind of a topics, So, okay, the last one is a cultural center. Again, this is the context and how a cultural center could be used. Why would someone want to use a cultural center? Well, if you're talking with small independent brokers or people that were part of franchises that are coming over and they're bringing people, they have hard costs associated with office space that in whatever their current model is being absorbed somehow. And so now when you're in a conversation with an independent broker that is not on any split with a company because they just have their splits with the agents, they have a split that's now going to be going to EXP depending on how those agents come over, if they're individual agents or on a team of some sort or even a mega team. And so there's money now going to EXP that otherwise was not, that's coming out of the broker's pocket. And they still have that physical office space or anything associated with it, those hard costs that they've got to cover to run their business. And so the cultural center was created and was a whole thing that Leo P, our CEO, had to go through with Deloitte and audits on it to make sure that we could do it and do it above board, whereby you are able to in the context of what we're talking about, small independent brokers or people that, you know, with franchises or even teams that are coming over, have the ability to create a space called a cultural center and have an agent to agent agreement with the company. So let's say I have a cultural center and I've got Paula, Jessica, Lori, and Christian and Pedro that are part of my business and now going to be part of the cultural center. I have the ability with EXP to have a contract, and they can be different for each one. I may have a at closing contract with Paula. I may have a monthly fee contract with Jessica. I may have a contract with Lori that caps out based on how much business that she's doing. Where it says there's some kind of whatever our financial agreement is that comes out monthly or at close of escrow that contributes towards those hard costs in a cultural center. So it can be used in that context. It can also be used if you have office space. So like, let's say Jessica has her own office space and there's EXP agents in the area that want to use that space. Well, Jessica's footing the bill for that space, right? And so instead of having agents that come where it's a win for the agent, not so much a win for Jessica because she's got the financial, you know, component that she's responsible for. But now here an agent's got a free office and the agent's not in her organization. So there's not any revenue share. Like there's no financial win for Jessica. Jessica can have a cultural center agreement with any agent that wants to use her physical office space. That is whatever they agree on and how they set that up for the use of the space. And so these are, you know, different strategies that can be used. Some people own their own buildings when they come over, or, you know, I mean, there's so many different instances where people come over and have some kind of financial responsibility that's going to be impacted now by having a split go to EXP. So with that cultural center, that is the idea behind it. Selena thank you for putting all of these links and resources in the, and you know, as I'm thinking about this, I'm not going to say it. About, well, you just have all of these at your fingertips, and most people don't have them at their fingertips. I'm wondering if we should have them on Empire Builders, or if they're just in the sponsoring toolkit and people can get them there.
They're in my Trello board. I can put the that's where I put
Oh.
them all. I can put the invitation here if anybody wants to utilize that.
Will you screen share your Trello board for people that don't know about it? Because there may be people that don't know about it, and it's like the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay, so we've got the model explained. What does the $85 get you? The FLQA sponsorship, co-sponsorship, LOI, capped permit, cultural center, and Selena's work of art that she is now inviting you all to be able to utilize. Tell them a little bit about this and why you created it and how to use it.
Well, the reason I created it was because Casey was always asking for links. So it was the easiest way to save them all. And so it started kind of small and then it grew from there. And then I realized I use it like crazy now because people ask me things all the time and I am the finder of all things. And I don't really think that sometimes they're easy to find in EXP stuff. Sometimes it's a little buried. So I started creating each one based on like what was going to happen. And you can see, make sure you scroll down. Because I added, I mean, even while we were on this call, I had a new one that came into me yesterday and I was like, oh, I'm going to put that in the Trello board. So anything from recruiting to onboarding, teams, commercial, I started adding in land and ranch when that happened because there are specific EXP explains for each one of those. So don't send the generic one if it's a commercial person. Don't send the generic one if it's land and ranch, right? It is important. I think you could send both, but it would be more pertinent if you know they're coming in for commercial to just send them the commercial information. Co-sponsorships in there. Other is like all kinds of stuff. If someone wants to know how to send emails from their exprealty.com email address, like there's all kinds of gobbledygook in here. If somebody needs to change their W-9, like whatever that looks like. These are our most popular calls to share when we are recruiting. This is from our Free Friday coaching calls, so feel free to use those as a recruiting tool when we do a follow-up and we think it's relevant. And then these are all of those hidden emails that nobody knows where to find or how to get a hold of somebody. If you have a question about revenue share or tech support or transactions or whatever it is. And by the way, here's a quick tip. All right, I want you to do this. So see at the top of each one, there's these 3 little dots on the top of every one. If you click on it, and you come down here and you click watch on every one of those, anytime I make a change or add something new, you'll get an email that says Selena added something to the team section.
Oh, you are
Yeah.
so smart.
Yeah, so that way you don't have to go look and see if Selena's added anything new. You just know Selena added something new. And I'm constantly updating it. Like our ICA that was updated recently, I change it out to whatever's the most recent one, right? Those sorts of things. So I posted the link in chat. That's going to give you an invitation. I do check to make sure that everybody's with EXP, and then I remove anybody who leaves EXP. So please don't share this outside of EXP because there's just a lot of documents in here, and I don't think anybody else really needs to have it. So there's a lot. I would say give yourself a couple of evenings to go through all the links and read them and, and know what everything is.
All right, fantastic. Well, in the last 2 minutes that we have before the top of the hour, would love any comments, questions, feedbacks, shares, anything you got. We'll take them.
Casey, last question in regards to the cap deferment. If I have an agent that is on the border coming from KW and they just renewed their cap over there, so they haven't fully capped. Let's say they paid like $5,000 out of, I think it's like 21,000 or 18,000, like that. Could the cap deferment still work, or does it have to be agents that fully capped to get the deferment?
It has to be fully capped because otherwise you're looking at a reduced cap for EXP and it screws up our financials.
So EXP wouldn't do that, wouldn't do a reduced cap.
Correct.
Okay.
They can have a reduced cap if they're on a team. They can come over at 8,000 or
Mhm.
on an Omega at 4. But yeah,
Okay.
great question. All right. Well, we will call it a day. Thank you all for being here. I know that was information overload, which is why we have a recording and a Trello board. Appreciate you all. This free Friday coaching call will be happening. Is this? No, it was last week.
It was
Not
last week.
It'll be happening next week. And so that'll be our next upcoming call. For those of you going to Miami, we'll look forward to seeing you in Miami. On the 12th, we'll be cutting off the registrations for the Sunset Cruise, www.ebp Sunset Cruise. If you haven't registered, we want you to come, and anybody that's with you that wants to come for that. It'll be Monday night, the 20th. We are very excited about that. And as a reminder, Blended Sense is going to be there. So on that registration link, if you want to have them pay $250, you'll get all the B-roll footage and whatever interview you want. It needs to be done in advance. So you need to get on their calendar. There won't be anything the day of available. So if you're on their calendar, they'll get you. If not, not. So handle that. If you're interested in doing that, we're going to be doing that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. Make it a great day, everyone. Appreciate you guys. Good to see so many faces.
Bye, guys.
Bye.